Let's speak to them now. This morning, representatives from 40 governments and organisations will gather in London for a migration summit as authorities attempt to crack down on the activities of people smugglers. Joining us from the Home Office, the Minister, Dame Angela Eagle. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us, Minister. So this is a big summit, 40 countries, as we mentioned, being hosted here. It's interesting to try and bring all of these different nations together, because isn't this issue, illegal migration, one that's actually quite a sort of self-interested one for countries to want to fight? It's not necessarily something that leads to cooperation as smoothly as you might expect.
Well, I think securing borders is a huge issue for all countries, and we've got a lot in common trying to tackle smuggling gangs that are making millions, acting illegally, smuggling people, but also if you can smuggle people, you tend to be interested in smuggling other things. And so it's in everybody's interest to try to crack down on what is a transnational problem. And to do that, we have to work with colleagues in other countries. So we had a reception last night. I talked to the Bulgarian ministers. I talked to the ministers from Tunisia, the Irish. We had a whole range of people that we were all meeting, and we've got 2 days of intensive talks now at the summit to see what we can do, how we can cooperate cross-border to make certain that we can put pressure on these gangs. So £33 million of extra money, some goes to the International Crown Prosecution Service, so we can work with other jurisdictions to bring known smugglers and gang members to justice wherever they are, whether they're in the UK, and some of them are, or whether they're in other countries along the smuggling routes. If
we're talking about small boat crossings, though, specifically, I mean, France does not have the same level of motivation to stop them as we do.
I don't think that's actually true, and there are going to be some big announcements at the summit from the French Minister Rataillot about the company Demarche, which is an elite new company. They're going to operationalise by May. It's much more dynamic, has more powers to deal with what's happening in the beaches along northern France. It does nobody any good to have the kind of presence of violent and highly armed gang members organising death trap crossings. And so they are also going to have a special prosecutorial unit there. We're doing much more and working collaboratively cross-border with all of our colleagues in Europe.
Disappointed that President Macron's not attending? I mean, the Prime Minister will be giving, opening remarks. Would he have liked to see high-calibre attendees from various countries?
I think we've got very high-calibre attendees, and the attendees we've got are the people that are doing this job. So the Interior Ministers, the equivalent of our Home Secretary, and other ministers. And we've also got, very crucially for day two, the operational experts, so the National Crime Agency, the Crown Prosecution Service, the people who are doing the job on the ground, the border services, all talking to their counterparts to see what they can do to collaborate together in order to make this problem, to challenge this problem much more effectively.
I guess thus far, though, are you disappointed in the number of small boat crossings, up over 40% so far this year?
Of course, we're disappointed. Some of that is about having more people per boat, which is also more dangerous and more reckless. But what we've got to do, we've been in government for 8 months. These people smuggling gangs have been allowed to establish themselves across the Channel and be very sophisticated with their global networks for 6 years. We are going to dismantle them by working with other people, cross-jurisdiction, operationally too, but we need time to do that, and we need to have events like this so that we can cooperate together to increase our effectiveness.
Realistically, as we look at it, though, is it fair to expect that the first full calendar year of you in office will see the numbers much higher than they were under the last government?
No, I wouldn't say that. These things are seasonal and never completely predictable.
Well, yeah, but same season compared to same season, 6,642 crossings this year compared to 4,640. You've got to have an incredible summer to see it lower this calendar year.
This is more people per boat.
That's still your responsibility to address.
We've got to put more pressure on the system. Our border security bill, which is going to give us counter-terrorism powers to intervene and disrupt at a much earlier time during the arrangements. It's still going through Parliament. We've got to get that onto the statute book and operationalised. We're doing all the work we can, but there's no quick, easy answers. This is going to take time to sort out, but sort it out we will.
In terms of tariffs, which clearly are coming into effect imminently, is the government considering a more aggressive response at any point, or again is the messaging still to hope conciliatory approach and working towards a trade deal will be the way forward?
Well, a trade deal will be in the interest of both the US and the UK. We are trading partners that do a fairly equal trade, and intensive talks are going on even as we speak over in the US to see if we can come to that agreement for our mutual economic benefit. And so we are going to focus on that prize, but we are also going to look after our own national interest too.
And what point would that mean a response in kind?
Well, I don't think that speculating about that when we're in the middle of intensive talks to come to an agreement is exactly helpful. What I've set out is that we will look after our own national interests, but we think it's in both the US and the UK interest to come to this deal.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask about the Sentencing Council. New guidance from them is coming into effect this week. Overnight, it's been reported that the Justice Secretary is going to legislate to overrule that. Can we expect legislation today on that front?
Well, I think that the Justice Secretary is considering exactly how she wants to do this, to reassert the obvious truth that everybody is equal before the law.
So there's no guaranteed action at this point?
She's looking at legislation even as we speak, and she'll make announcements on that when she's made decisions about how she wishes to proceed.
And the reporting that we saw yesterday and overnight to suggest that could be as soon as the early part of this week is accurate?
Well, you'll have to wait for the Justice Secretary to make the announcement she wants to make about that, but she's dealing with this issue. She thought it was right to talk to the Sentencing Council prior to making her own decisions. She's had that discussion with them, and she's now making decisions about how to proceed.
And just finally, tomorrow, of course, at the start of April, council tax goes up, energy bills are going up, water bills, I think, are going up as well. At the end of the week, national insurance contributions go up for businesses. Tough week for a Labour government to see all of those impacts on working people?
Yes, but the minimum wage goes up and the living wage goes up, which gives people £1,400 more in their pocket. Breakfast clubs for infant schools, which will give people £450 more in their pocket. The triple lock for pensioners, which will give 12 million pensioners another £470 a year. That's all happening as well. You have to report both sides.
That's fine, and that's a fair point to make. But equally, do you think that's the net effect that people will be feeling?
Look, I mean, there are always pressures on the cost of living, but we've had reductions in interest rates and wages are going up higher than prices. For the first time, we had an entire parliament where that didn't happen. So wage rises ahead of prices. People are having extra costs, as you've explained, I've explained. Some people are getting extra help. What we've got to do is try to grow our economy so that we can ensure that prosperity is rebuilt and spread as far and wide as possible.